V'hine kol zeu b'bichinas yiridas or v'hamshechasu milamayla lamata. Now all of this is with the concept of the descent of light and drawing it down from above to below. Shiuredu mislabesh bisod galus hashchina, that it descends and encloses in the concept of the exile of the divine presence. Like it says, I will descend with you down to Egypt. That it's compared to a deer and the swift goat, like we explained, the difference between the deer that runs swiftly and the horse of Matan Torah of Har Sinai. Mamash bebechinas ha'aliyah she'ola b'islabshus mihislabshus ha'ester hazeh. So too, the elevation, not the descent, that it goes up from this enclothement and this hiding. Olegamkin bebechinas merutza gedola, the concept of the deer and the mountain goat also runs up and jumps upwards with a swiftness and an alacrity. Shelo b'hadraga klal, it's not comparable at all to its previous state. It jumps from one state to the other. Kamo al derech mashal atzvi ofer hayalim shiratz b'merutza gedola min namuch legavoa, just like this deer, this mountain ram that runs with a great speed and jumps from below to above. Just as it goes from above to below. Because the jumping and the running is a single strength. Whether it's jumping and running in the valley to the mountain, from the valley to the mountain, or into the valley from the mountain, or from the valley to the mountain. I called taloi b'mihiras bilvad. All depends on the strength and the speed alone. V'hi hakalus asher b'raglayim, and it's the lightness of the legs. Kamo ba'asahel, like it says by the Bnei Tzruya, the family of David, you had Asahel, Shnei Amarbo, that it says, V'Asahel kal b'raglav ka'achad hatzvaim, that Asahel was light on his feet, like one of the deers, B'Shmuel Beis Simon Beis. Ukmokin yuvan al derech mashal amayla. So too you can understand allegorically above the concept of the elevation minagolus from the exile. Shebechinas ha'Allah, that the concept of the elevation halazu, this elevation, milamata lamayla, from below to above, dome mamash, k'mual derech mashal hatzvi, is just like this concept of the deer. Shiratz min ha'emek el gova hahar, that runs from the valley to the height of the mountain. B'dilug umerutza gedola, with tremendous jumping and speed. Kach ksiv barach dodi. So to it says, my beloved ran udmeilacha udmeilach litzvi ulofer hayalim, and I compare you to a deer or this mountain ram. Al hari בשמים, on the mountains of spices. Perish barach. What does it mean that it ran? B'mirutza gedola, with a tremendous force and speed. V'u'b'chinas salam inis labshus hagalus anal, that is being elevated from the enclothement within exile. V'kamosh shekazur, like it says, v'anuchi elcha gamalo, and I will lift you up and also lift you up. V'galus Mitzrayim, that it says in the exile of Egypt. V'kiyotz, and the like. Shehu b'bechinas mirutza v'dilu gadol kol kach shelo b'derech ilava olu b'hadraga mitam anal b'bechinas hayirida. This is with tremendous speed and jumping to such a degree that's not in the way of cause and effect and step-by-step order, for the reason that we explained b'bechinas hayirida in the same way of we explained by the descent. So too, going up from the exile is similar. Look what it says in Medrash, that I didn't know my soul. Amud Beis, Reisha de Lav Reisha, V'lo yada, v'lo isyada, mad dahavi bereisha, dachulu. Says it brings the translation. It brings that there's a level of that's called the head that's not the head, and that's the head that's not known, and the reisha de lo isyada, the head that cannot be known. What's in the head? V'al haikra barach el mikomecha, and about this, it says, run away to your place, meaning to say, I guess, to this level of the translation of the three heads, different levels in the heights of Keser and Atik and so forth. And similarly, it says, run away, my beloved. And then, and to you and so forth, we're comparing to a deer because this elevation is not in the natural order. And this is the concept that it says by Yaakov, Barach lecha el Lavan achi, run away to my brother Lavan. That's what Rivka told him. Ki Yaakov be'atzilus, that Yaakov in Atzilus, Sham yesh l'uma zeh zah de klipa Esav, you have the opposite to this, which is Zera Anpin of Klippa, which is Esav, because Yaakov corresponds with Zera Anpin of Kedusha. Aval el Lavan, Shu Loven ha'elyon, but if you're going up to Lavan, so spiritually that refers to going up to the supernal whiteness, Bechinas V'sa'arei Sheikha Marneke, which is in Keser, where it says that his hair is like clean wool. Sham ein lu umazeh, there you do not have this opposite. This opposite. V'nikra zeh b'shem bricha, and this is called the concept of running away. Lefi sheboreach mean hishtal shlusa olamos asher sham yesh tov, that you're running away from the natural order of the worlds, and that there you have good v'neged zera, and the opposite, which is bad, lebechinas shelamayla megeder ha'ishtal shlos, and you're running away, you're going to above the order of the process of creation. Im keinu kemo boreach min hanhagas ishtal shlos achitzonius. Therefore, we're comparing it to running away from the natural order in the external shuhurgalu ad achshav that we're used to until now. Lekabel misham chayus v'yanikuchulu, to nurture from there life force and flow and nurturance. And now you're running away from that to a point where there's no nurturance. They can't grasp there at all. The other side can't grasp there at all. We can also say that the concept of to run away is from the language of the middle pole of the Mishkan, where it says that it goes through from end to end, which is the concept of that there's a direct connection between Tiferes, which is in the middle, all the way up to Keser. Keser, Das, Tiferes, Yisod, Malchus, and so forth, the Kavhem Tzoi. And Tiferes goes up to Keser in a special way. There's a special connection between Tiferes and Keser in general. That is the concept of that my beloved runs away to you. And it's compared to a deer and so forth, or that we're comparing you. And Medrash Rabbah says that my beloved runs away from the idol worshippers, and attaches to Israel. And this is similar to what we said, I guess, about the exile and elevation from Golos. And this is what it says, that in the beginning, it says it in the descent from above to below, so that you should turn, like we said, from the Makif Dumelech Adodi Litzvi, and compare you, my beloved, to a deer or le'ofer, or to this mountain ram al hari baser, on these mountains of separation davka, because you're descending downwards. And then the concept of elevation from below to above, Amar Dmelecha Litzvi, and then it says, I'm comparing you to a deer, it says it again, Al Hari Besamim, upon the mountains of Besamim. So if you're going from above to below, you're going down to the Hari Baser, to the mountains of separation. But if you're going from below to above, you're going to the heights of the mountains of spices. Al Hari Besamim Dafka, specifically, Perish Al Hari Besamim, what does it mean upon the mountains of spices? That is to say that you have very high mountains. Shasham Gedelim Atze Besamim Ameshivim Mesanefesh. There you can find special plant life that can satiate the soul. With these kinds of concepts of fragrance, as is known, that satisfies the soul, because the soul has such tremendous pleasure from these fragrances. And so too, this is allegorical to above in the three first levels of Atzilus, of Keser Chachma Bina, Shenikra Hari Besamim, that they're called the mountains of spices, Ashim Bichinas Pnimis Oneg Ha'elyon, Shabab Mislabesh, because of the inner supernal pleasure that comes and is enclosed Bichinas Reach HaBesamim, in the fragrance of these spices. Look what it says, Basi Legani, on the pasuk in Shir Hashirim, where it talks about that, where he has the myrrh and the spices, where it talks about the city of Yerecho and the Jordan River by the city of Yerecho. The word Yerecho, the city, the name refers to the smell. And like this, you have the 7 nations of the land of Israel, and above that, or the key to it, the manula shel Eretz Yisrael, is the reach, the smell, the fragrance that needs birur. Look about where it says about Yehoshua sending spies to Yerecho. And this is what it says by Mashiach, that he smelled in the fear of Hashem. And that is within the level of Keser Chochma Bina, like by Mashiach, is similar to how we said that this smell, this fragrance, refers to the level of the city, the heights of its Atzilus. Even though he did mention before the tlastration before, which is in Keser, but here it seems that it's actually referring to a lower level of Keser Chochma Bina Atzilus. Sheha'aras Orin Sof Meir Begilui Hayoser Elyon Mikol Hayishtalshlos, that the glimmer of the infinite light shines in a revealed way more than all of the gradative order and process of creation. Ukidu, and as is known, and this is a tremendous elevation for the souls of Israel and the divine presence with them. Shis'alu bi'iloi, the Gimel Rishonos, to be elevated to the three first levels. Run away, my beloved. And I'm comparing you to this deer that goes upon the mountains of spices. Like it says by Esther, that she soaked 6 months in the myrrh oil, and 3 months in the spices of bisamruke hanashim, and the other fixings of the ladies. Pirish shemen hamor. So what's the spice of myrrh? That's the pleasure that's enclosed with wisdom. That's called the holy anointing oil. Kidu, as is known. Ubsamim shem reach levad. So I guess myrrh has a certain body to it. It's a substance, whereas spices can just refer is to just the smell alone, just the fragrance alone. Bilti slabshusu b'shemen, not enclosed within an oil. Shu chachma, which that chachma is wisdom. Shashem roi lachila gamkein, that you could eat oil as well. Mashen ken hareach atzmo, which is not the case with just the fragrance. Shanashama nehena mimenu, that the soul alone benefits from it, enjoys it, v'lo haguf, and not the body. That is to say, it's even higher. בשמים is even higher than the myrrh, because it's not included in wisdom yet. It doesn't have a keli. Look what it says in the Maamar. It talks about the difference between oil and the incense. That there you might also imply shemen uktoras yismach lev, that oil and incense rejoices the heart. But so there you have this. You can have this concept of incense being higher than the oil. And that's the concept of the 6 months in the spices. So too you can understand with the concept of the mountains of spices above. That it's the concept of the inner supernal pleasure. And to there is elevated the divine presence from the exile and the hiding. Like from the valley to the heights of the mountain, the highest mountain, and so forth. That it's in a way of a jump that is not in the regular order at all. And this is similar to what it says about how Israel are like a chick of an eagle, that the eagle carries it upon its wings. That is to say, above the concept of the limbs. of the king, Shaidei Kiyuma mitzvos, because through the fulfillment of the mitzvos, Yaidei Hagalus, and through the exile, Yizku lebechinas tshuva, we merit the concept of tshuva, which is going up higher. Like it says, Hashem will return your captives. What it says in Medrash Shabbat that we mentioned, b'makom shebali tshuva omdim. And in a place where repentant are stand, the tzaddikim gemurim can't even stand. The fishim varerim, because we elevate, we purify mebechinas omek ra, from the concept of the depths of the bad. Shem gimel klipos, that if you're elevating that level, from the 3 klipos shalamata mata minoga, that are much lower than noga, where we usually elevate the bad from. Through this you elevate to the depths of good. If you're elevating from the depths of bad, you're going to get and elevate to the depths of the good oppositely. Bechinas keser elyon, the concept of the supernal crown, above the concept of wisdom. Like we said, it's higher than oil, that the Torah comes out through of chachma. And the concept of tshuva is higher than that. And that's the concept of turn, like the concept of returning, bessamim, I guess turning around, like tshuva upon the mountains of spices, bechinas reach, the concept of the smell. Shu idea tshuva, the concept of smell also corresponds with the idea of tshuva, where it says, see the smell of my son, where it says how when Yaakov stole the blessings from Esav, he smelled Gan Eden instead of the goatskin, which I guess is appropriate in this context, if that's what we're saying. It corresponds with this type of level. Be'inyan reach begadav reach bogda, where it talks about the scent of his clothing, of his garments, which is the play on words of the smell of his iniquities or his rebellions. Because he did tshuva, and I wonder if there's a connection between Mashiach that he mentioned, the Morach Vadain, where it says that Hashem is going to make tzaddikim, to make the tzaddikim do tshuva. So perhaps that's connected to this idea. Mashiach and the Reach. And that's the concept of to lift him on, to lift him on his wings, like we said. And this is the concept of the pigeon and the chickling, that it says here by the covenant between the cut parts. Like it says by the eagle, that it flaps above its chicks, and carries it above its wings. So it uses the same word here as in Hazinu and so forth. It uses the word gozal is not really used so often in Tanakh, and here we see a parallel between these two. And so the gozal that's mentioned by the Bris Ben Agzarim is similar to the gozal that's mentioned where the eagle flutters above its chicks, that we said was elevated above the Ramach Ivarim. It's a high concept. This concept of the bris by Avraham is similarly, I guess, reaching up to Keser in that way. Zeu gamkin inyan hamedrash agada shevi Rashi b'shoftim reish simin he binyan tavor vekarmel, and there's also the concept of the medrash that Rashi brings in Shoftim with the concept of the mountains of Tavor and Carmel in comparison to Sinai. Ne'amar b'Sinai Anochi, that by Sinai it says Anochi, v'Tavor ne'amar Anochi Anochi, and by Tavor it says twice I am. Anochi Anochi hu menachem chem, and so forth. In Yeshaya Beis Pe'amim Ne'amar b'Sinai Havaya Elokecha, it says by Sinai Havaya Elokecha once. V'Karmel Ne'amar, and by Carmel it says Kaful, in a doubled measure, Havaya hu Elokim, that Hashem is the Elokim, Hashem is the Elokim twice, by the story of Eliyahu and the Ovdi Abba. Ki Sinai Mura al Tzadikim, because Sinai corresponds with the righteous. V'Tavor v'Karmel, him b'chinas hari baser, but Tavor and Carmel, even though they're lower, they actually correspond, and they with the Valley Tshuva, they're called the mountains of separation. Achayidei Tshuva is kusha b'makom shebali Tshuva omdim. However, through repentance, we'll measure the place that the righteous stand. The place where the repentance stand, Vainu Anochi Anochi, the double Anochi, Bechinas Atik Yomin Varichan Bin Chulu, which is higher than, in Keser, which is higher than the concept of Har Sinai. So I guess Hari Besamim is higher than Har Sinai in this context. Moshe Kazmi says, Sof Dibor Hamaschil Shuva Yisrael, Zeu Inyan Al Hari Besamim Shem Atik Yomin Varichan Bin. This is the concept of the mountains of spices, which are Atik and Arich. And this is what our sages hinted to, where it says, in its time I will speed it up. Where our sages said that if we merit, it'll be speedily, but if we don't, then it'll be in its time. Perush kemosh goes b'Gemara Sanhedrin daf tzadik ches aleph zachu azayalu min hagolus bebechinas merutz v'dilu gadol milamata lamayla. And that is to say, what does it mean if we're meritorious? It says in Gemara Sanhedrin, then we'll be lifted up from the exile with a tremendous speed and a jump milamata lamayla, from below to above, adrom hamaylos, to the highest heights. And that's the concept of I will speed it up, of this language of speed, like we said by the deer. Mehirus gedola kenoda, this tremendous speed as is known. Because you need for this a tremendous speed. Like it says, barachto dichulu l'chak ukanal. Like it says that my beloved ran, and we're comparing you to the deer and so forth. Azai hali azos hi betachlis ha iloy, and then this elevation is in the greatest way, in the highest heights. That it says, I'm going to elevate you. I'm even going to elevate you. I mean, implying that it's not just a regular elevation, but all the way up. And this is like it says in the time to come, in the conclusion of the subjugation of the entire exile. Hine yaskil avdi, that my servant will be successful. Yarum v'nasav v'gavameod, will be elevated and lifted and very high. Shubichinis pnimi satik yomin kenoda v'dal, which is the concept of the inner level of atik, as is known, and that's enough. Achlo zachu bi'ita, but if we do not marry it, then it will be in its time, perish b'hadraga, that is to say, in the normal order of progression, shalo b'dilug, and not in a jump, ad shiyalu b'seder v'hadraga, sarich arichus zman, and to go into the regular order, you need a length of time. Ein mashakos b'torah or sufti b'ramachil v'daber elokim chulu va'era. Ein mashakos v'od me'inyan zachu achishena b'torah or gabi purim b'dibur amaskil v'sumi b'puria gabi maher kachas lavush. Look what it says, where it's talking about swiftly take the horse, by how Muhammad was supposed to swiftly take the horse, which I guess is a similar concept. Take the garment and the horse. And to explain this matter, how through the descent upon these mountains of separation, afterwards you're going to have the elevation upon the mountains of spices. We can preface what our sages said, al pasuk, uzirati ali ba'aretz, on the verse, and I will sow the seeds in the earth. Lo galu Yisrael lebein of the kochavim el lebein ha'umos el kedei lahosif alein chulu. That the only reason Israel was exiled amongst the nation was to add upon to them Gerim, the converts, the Akushi Yidua, and the question is known. Klum adam zoriakav ela lahutzi kama korin chulu, that a person will only sow seeds if they expect to get much back in return. And if we're sowing and if we are the seeds and the converts are the produce, we should be getting many more converts than the seeds of Israel that are sown into these places. And we see that the converts are much less. Chelik echad miribu is one out of 600,000. And further, and even more even more in comparison. Even meaning to say, even a smaller portion. 600,000, 1 out of 600,000 is a good estimate. Amr Razal Kashim Gerim Yisrael, the Adraba, the Adraba Amr Razal Kashim Gerim Yisrael Kisapachas, and further, exactly the opposite. Our sages said that the converts are harsh for Israel, like a blemish of tzaras. But the concept is the Pirush Gedi Malalu, that what does it mean? These converts, that's referring to the sparks that fell from the world of Tohu, the Iniksiv. That's written. Yet saved Vulos Amim Mispar B'nei Israel, that he stands up the borders of the nations to the number of the sons of Israel, Shein Ayin Sarim, which are 70 ministering angels, Leneged Ayin Nefesh Yaakov, that correspond with the 70 souls of Yaakov, V'chol Sar V'Sar, and every single ministering angel, Yeshlo Shoresh Elyon, has a supernal source, Adroma Milos, to the highest heights. Hainu ad bechinas zayin tachtonos to tohu, that is to say, until the 7 lower levels of Tohu, because we're talking about 70, and so it goes up to the 7 of Tohu. Shein and Ikraim and Zayin Malachim Kadmain, that are called the 7 early kings. Lefish called Echad ve'Echad Kolum Yud. Since each one of these 7 is a composite of 10, Lekachin b'mispar Ayin Sarim Lamata. Therefore, they're 70 ministering angels below. And look what it says in the Mimer: have all your sons binyan ayin tluya the tevas yicharsamina chazir miyar, of the word that your will cut the pig and the hog in the forest. It has there an ayin tluya. It hints to a concept of Esav and so forth, as compared to the hog. Like it says, and these are the kings that were king in the land of Edom, before there was a king to the sons of Israel, which is the concept of the tikkun. Now it's written, in each one of these 7 kings, that they were king, they became king, and then they died. And it says in Zohar, that somebody who falls from his level is called dead. That is to say that this refers to the process of the breaking of the vessels. So all these converts, where it says that we're going to get Geirim, he's saying it doesn't necessarily mean it as actual converts, but it also it hints to this concept of the elevating the sparks. And obviously there's so many more sparks that we're elevating. And then it makes sense to compare it to sowing seeds and gathering produce. And so these kings, where it says that they died, and it's a descent, so these levels descended, they need to be elevated. Vainu inyan ubechinas shviras hakelim, that's the concept of the breaking of the vessels, shenishberu v'naflu imahem reish pei ches nitzutzim be'olam habriya chulu, that you had 288 sparks that fell into the world of Bria and so forth, v'k'moshkaza beitz chaim. Yim kein harei v'ayin sarim the noga de biyah. So in these 70 ministering angels, within the noga that can be elevated, the klippa that's elevatable, in the worlds of Bria, Tzira, Siyah, Nislabish behen mibechinas rapach nitzutzim, reish beches nitzutzim deto, you have the includement of these 288 sparks of tohu, al yidei bechinas hashvira, through the concept of this breaking. Zeu perish v'yimoloch v'yamos chulu, and this is the concept of that he became king and he died. Each one of these kings, that these vessels broke and you have these sparks that fell down and need to be elevated. And then the revival of the dead is the elevation of these sparks that fell down, as in a concept of death within these 70 ministers. And they're called the dead, and the revival of them, through the concept of Israel, because they're in a concept of fixing. That Israel fixes the concept of Israel is the concept of tikkun that fixes this. As is known, they fix the concept of tohu. But how can Israel elevate them, then bring them back up to their source? The concept is this is through Israel being subjugated underneath the rule of the 70 ministering angels of the nations. That it's known שכל שפע דומם צומח חי מדבר שבעושה המדינה שתחת ממשלת השר ההוא, that all the inanimate plant animals and people that are in that country that are under the ruling of that particular ministering angel nishpa kol al yedei slabshus be'osor hasar, he comes through being enclosed in that particular ministering angel, like it says, that there's no blade of grass below, that there's no spiritual source or astronomical sign, or here we're saying it's an angel above. Or if we're talking about the astronomical signs, they receive from the ministering angels, and therefore we see a difference between country to country, and the type of flora that grows there, the plant life and the fruits, corresponding with the type of ministering angels for each country above. Therefore, you have a difference in their lands below. In the growth of the fruits and the produce. That in this country grows the vines and so forth, like France, as we know. And in one country grows figs, and in one country wheat. When a man of Israel eats food, sustenance and food, that was provided, the flow came through that particular ministering angel. And is enclosed within the garment that grew there. And all the needs of the flow of the inanimate plant, animal, and people that are there. And then, with the strength of this food, mispalel bekavana, you daven with intention, shemus or nafsha be'achad chulu, that you give up your life when you say echad. And with this, you elevate that divine spark that's resting in the that particular food, that came from and was being nurtured by that particular ministering angel, that the idol worshippers worship. And you elevate it, you elevate it and bring it underneath the wings of the Shekhinah, just like a convert that enters from the impurity into the purity, underneath the wings of the Shekhinah. Kumokin b'chol domin someachai, and so too with all the inanimate plant and animal pratim, in particular, hinimal b'chinas and tzutzos de tohu. Notice that here he doesn't say speaker. He elevates all the sparks of tohu shmilubashim bahem that are enclosed in them, and imsaos in Yisrael b'chinas gerim rabbi meod, and so Israel are making very many converts, so to speak. That yes, the people are few, but if we're counting all the sparks, including the inanimate plant and animal, so we have many sparks being elevated. B'chol yom v'yom, every single day, shin tachas ayin sarim, that are underneath these ministering angels. V'zeu sheramzu razal shelo galu Yisrael lebein uvdi gelulim lebein ha'umos elo lehosif aleim chulu, that Israel was only exiled amongst the nations to add onto them the converts. Shebechinas riboy halos ani tzutzim canal, that are these many elevations of sparks that we said. Like it says in another place on how I'm going to make you a great nation, when it says to Avram Lech Lecha, how is he Sham Begolus Tafka, specifically in exile, Mitam Hanal, and for the reason that we just explaining. And all of this is hinted to in Shmona Esrei, in the blessing of you are strong forever. Adnai Mechayim Mesim Ata, you bring back to life the dead. That is to say, that is also the concept of the revival of the dead. Through Israel, they're elevating these sparks. That's bringing them back to life from their death. Because first, because first, as they were enclosed within the physicality of the inanimate plant and animal, shibenoga nikro b'shem mason, they were called dead because they're within the klippas, which is the concept of misa, and they're not being used for holiness. Like it says, by the kings of Edom, that are the source for the broken vessels of Tohu, that they became king and they died. And their revival of the dead, Israel, it's through Israel, and when we daven and give up our souls, when we say Hashem is one, Shaz Yuchlulu Gamheim Imahen Be'echad. They too then will be included with them in this oneness. And will be revived from this concept of death. This is what we mean when we say in Shmona Esrei that you revive the dead. This is the concept of you are strong forever, Hashem. In order to have this concept of Adnai hu b'chinas malchus, so Yisbarech, it's the concept of Hashem's kingship. Ant ishtamod adon al kola, that you are known as the master over all. That's the concept of Shem Adnai. So we say Ata Gibur Alom Adnai, which, by the way, the Rashi Tevos of that name is a special shame that is brought in the Kavanos. And here we're saying that the name Adnai, where it says that you are known as the master over all, is elevating everything. And through the concept of this strength, that the concept of Gvura is tzimtzum, or descent, going down the level, Hadraga, mi'ila le'ila, but it's talking about doing it with a strength, going down, not in the regular order, but with a strength, not from source to source, but as a jump and a skip. That the divine presence went down to being clothed in the ministers of the idol worshippers, or the nations. And this is what's called gvura. Ata gibor, ki a gibor yochol larutz maher al yedei riboy koach ugvura. Because the strong man can run swiftly through their tremendous strength and ability. Like it's written, that it's like the sun is like a strong man to run the path. The bar droma da kavutz mila. Parakid the gitten dafnen zayin amud aleph, and this is like the story of the bar ruma that would jump a mila in gitten. Because and all of this jumping is in order to have this revival of the dead, which are these sparks, which fell down from the world of Tov, Egla, and the Rashi Tevus is this name, Shu Inyan Maskil El Dal, which is the concept of to give to the poor. As is brought in the Kavanas HaMikveh of the Besht, where he says that this name is part of the Kavanah. Bringing down from Kesser and so forth. That's the concept of great is his saving. And that's the end. That after we say that he revives the dead, comes to bring a reason for this. That at first glance, how you could ask, how is it possible to elevate physical food to be included and be one with Hashem's unity? Through our self-sacrifice, since the food itself is physical, that we see clearly that a person gets physicalized by the food, because the source of the food is from the tree of knowledge of good and bad. As is known, on this it says that he's great in saving. So that is to say, with his concept of great, he's able to save and to elevate even this physical lowly food that comes from the tree of knowledge, which is synonymous with the concept of noga. Tini amru kol rav mi Bavel v'Rebbe me'Eretz Yisrael.